All right, we're live. Hey everyone, welcome to another Webflow live stream. I'm your host, Nelson. Thank you for joining me for episode 155. Now, as you can tell, we're in the Webflow studio, and we have a special guest, Vlad. Yay!
Hi, everyone.
How are you doing, Vlad?
By the way, this is a virtual studio. Nelson's actually in San Diego, and I'm here in San Francisco, but we've composited this together so that it works really well with the power of Webflow.
See, I can't go beyond the...
Yeah, we only have this line
high five.
Yeah.
All right, yeah.
Great job. You got that. You did that well.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
Anyways, yes, at the end of every quarter, we do a live Q&A session with Vlad. And so you can ask your questions and have them answered live, and Vlad will just figure out how to answer it, if possible. There's
and if I don't know the answer, I'll go ask somebody who knows.
There you go. There you go. Now, before we get to your questions, which there are already a lot, thank you so much to everyone who've already put in their questions through the form. There are a lot of questions. Let's first talk about this thing called the No Code Conference. It's Webflow's first conference that we're having, and it's happening this November 12th and 13th. You can go to nocodeconf.com for more information. But if you haven't seen this cool video that we've produced, the team has produced, check it out now.
Today, the world runs on code. Every text you send, every website you visit, every screen you swipe, it's all driven by code. Code that only a fraction of the world can even understand. And that's a problem. Imagine if only 1 out of every 400 people knew how to write. Think how many world-changing ideas would have never seen the light of day. We'd be stuck in the dark ages. And when it comes to software development, we kind of are. So what if, instead of writing hundreds of lines of code to add new features to your website, you could just design them directly on your website? What if you could create the next world-changing product without writing a single line of code? That's the future for creators, and it's about to change everything. It's time to unleash the power of software development to everyone by making it visual, so anyone can harness the power of code to build a website, an app, or an entire business without actually writing it. At Webflow, we're doing exactly that. We're empowering creators to design, build, and launch amazing things. No code required. Welcome to the future of software development. Welcome to the age of no code.
Oh yeah, that was really cool. Not sure how excited you all are if you're going or not, but it's a big deal. We're pushing the no code revolution. Hopefully you can come. Again, tickets are on sale now. nocodeconf.com. Now, just looking at the chat room right now, where are you all from? How you guys doing? Yeah, let's see here. There's someone from Paris, France. Let's see. Nicole, hello from France. The Ad Lava agency in Vegas. Hey. Devin from
Tucson, Sardinia.
Flow agency from UK. Welcome. Then Evelina from Norway. That's awesome. Yeah, a lot
Jupiter, Florida.
Yeah.
Got somebody calling in from space.
From space?
Yeah, I don't know. I just made that up.
Okay, from Germany. Seriously amazing. From someone got their tickets and going to take a bus from Atlanta to California to go to the No Code Conference.
Wow. That's dedication. That's awesome. Prague, Switzerland. So awesome.
Thank you, Manny. Don't have my ticket, but really want to go. From Canada, Ukraine, Italy. Such a awesome...
Kuwait, Delhi. Wow. People must be like up at night watching this.
Yeah,
it's pretty incredible.
Someone from New Zealand said they woke up at 4:40 a.m. Amazing. Go with the flow. Yes.
Welcome, everyone. This is Oman. This is incredible.
And someone from the fourth dimension, Lechon.
Oh, wow. That's one short of the best dimension.
What's the fifth dimension?
No, I meant the third dimension.
Oh, okay. All right. All right. So again, if you have any questions for Vlad, we'll do our best to answer it. And yeah, there's a form link going around in the live chat room where you can submit your question. And yeah, so let's see here. Oh, and by the way, we're going to give away a ticket. We're going to give away one ticket to a random person who submits a question through the form, and we'll email that person after the stream.
Wait, what kind of ticket is this? Like a parking ticket? Or?
No, a No Code Conference ticket. So
okay,
you can get a free ticket to No Code Conference if you submit a question. So awesome for everyone who's here. Let's get to the questions. Are you ready?
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay, so our first one is from Brian. All right, here we go. Webflow seems to be doing a lot for underrepresented people, both internally and in selecting speakers for the No Code Conference. How are you currently or in the future empowering these folks in the larger design development Webflow community?
That's a good question. I think actually one processy thing about the No Code Conference is that we picked all of the talks based on a blind process, based on the subject matter of the talk and how strong the proposal was, and it just turns out that a lot of those talks are the strongest ones. And I've always been a proponent of this idea that talent is like equally distributed throughout the world. There's so many talented people, but opportunity is not. And there are a lot of like systemic problems that keep a lot of minoritized people away from opportunities that are available to other folks that might be in the majority group. So we're trying to do as much as possible to try to tear those systems down and create processes that remove as much bias as possible from our hiring process, from our speaker selection process, etc. There's a lot of work we need to do there. Somebody on our team, Mariah, who leads diversity, equity, and inclusion, recently wrote a blog post that you can check out on our blog around just the sheer amount of work we still have left to do. But at the end of the day, we want to build really strong teams, and strong teams are made up of many diverse perspectives, and that's our goal here, is to build a team that can make a product and build a community for everyone in the world, not just people that already happen to be kind of in the industry or in tech or might have a level of privilege that other people don't have. So we see that as a responsibility, and as the company that's leading the no code movement, it's if we don't do it, then I don't know, just leaves a lot of our responsibility again on the table, and we feel that it's something that is important for us to speak up about and to actually take action on, versus just talk about it or be silent on. So.
Okay, all right. Marco has two questions. Okay, one, Webflow plugins. Mm-hmm. Where are we at with that? And number two, a Webflow merch store, because he wants more gear.
Good question on both. Webflow plugins is in very active development. There are still no timelines. This is one of the hardest things that we've ever done. So I don't want to kind of put the team in a weird situation by promising anything, but it is one of the biggest priorities in the company, if not the biggest. So that's a huge effort that's ongoing, and we think it's going to be pretty transformative. Hope to get you more information as soon as we have it, but I don't want to say the word soon because I know that's a loaded one. But we are actively working on that. In terms of merch store, that is honestly something that we're kind of behind on. So we'll see what the internal conversations are around that. I know it's just been a big operational lift before, but it might be something that we can get to pretty soon.
Yeah. All right. Ben, any plans to take no code creating in other places besides the web, like apps, web apps, programmatic graphics?
Yeah, the cool thing about the web is that it has it's finding its ways into all sorts of platforms. So, for example, progressive web apps are now ending up on like iPhones and Android phones, et cetera, as first-class citizens, where there's still some catch-up to do, but they'll have things like notifications and access to camera, access to location, etc. And it looks and feels like an app, but it's powered by HTML and CSS and JavaScript, which is what Webflow is really, really great at. So we intend to have Webflow target other platforms. Time will tell exactly when that's going to happen. But the way we're making a huge bet on the web platform in that it's going to get much faster, much more powerful on all sorts of devices. Like right now, there are refrigerators and all these things that run on basically a browser that's HTML and CSS. So we're making a big bet on that before going into like compiling native code for iOS or whatever. So yes, we are going. And by the way, this isn't. Like the question is it going to other places besides the web? We see all of this stuff as the web. So whenever I open up like Airbnb on my phone, and that happens to be tied to like my listings or my past trips on my like my Chrome browser or my Firefox browser on my computer, that's all interconnected on the web. It's an internet enabled software sort of service and product, etc. The fact that this is on my phone and this is on my desktop doesn't mean that this is not on the web and this is. So a lot of people kind of like, when we were first getting started, they're like, oh, well, when you do apps, you have to call yourself AppFlow or something like that.
Oh, no.
Like we see all this stuff as like the broader web. As long as it's connected together, that's the web. That's the worldwide web part, I guess.
Well, I mean, like there's now other platforms. Kind of, it makes me think of Glide apps. Or one of our team members actually made an app using Glide apps, and it looks native on a phone.
Right.
But it's.
I believe that's all progressive web apps. I'd have to double check, but I think it that is a little bit of a simpler approach in the sense that a lot of those apps look very similar, so there's not a high amount of customization. But I think all of that is possible, like whether it's Glide apps or Webflow or other no code folks in this space. We're just going to start blurring the lines between what a target is. It's just like the software is the thing that matters. The design, the user experience, the sort of like logic of how something works is way more important than like how it actually compiles down to bits and runs on a processor. Like that stuff is going to matter less and less.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Ben. Jonathan, is Webflow working on a GUI for database connections yet? If so, how are these decisions being made or tested?
GUI for database connections. I'm not quite sure what that means. Sort of like importing other data sources into Webflow.
That's what I think.
We did have some experiments around like pulling in GraphQL endpoints into Webflow. I'd have to check on how far they are in the process. But over time, yeah, we do see Webflow as a more generic kind of data can come from anywhere. I'm not sure exactly where we are in terms of like building the GUI for it. Though right now we're focusing on improving our like the core CMS product, core e-commerce product, etc.
Okay. All right. Chris, what do you think no-code platforms like Bubble and Knack are doing right, and how does that fit into the Webflow no-code future?
Good question. I would call some of those like closer to low code. Although like depending on your interpretation, it could also be no code. They're amazing. I think the fact that like Bubble and Knack can empower you to do so much more around user accounts and things like that. It's definitely something that Webflow is working towards as well. So there's a lot of companies in the space right now like really trying to define the bounds of it, including all the way as far as like Airtable and Zapier and a bunch of other no-code providers. at the end of the day, this is amazing for creators, no matter how you slice it, because all of these companies, working together, and when we're planning No Code Conf, it's not just like the Webflow conference. A lot of these companies are also there, going to have like presentations and booths and help people understand more about the industry. So our perspective on this is that a rising tide lifts all boats. Like the more creators we can get to see that they can actually be empowered to create their own like products and services without necessarily getting a computer science degree or going to like months or years of boot camps, and kind of like scaling this very complex barrier of having to learn how to code. The more people that believe that's possible, and the more companies that are trying to show by example that these things can happen, and people can get their ideas out there, the better it is for the world, right? It sort of like informs all of us how to make our products and services more powerful and more feature rich and easier to use, and all of that. So there's, I think, a lot that we can learn from Bubble and Knack and vice versa. And I think over time, what we'll ideally get to is something like the 3D animation space, where there are a lot of different ways that you can like animate a 3D movie, and each tool sort of specializes in different things. But at the end of the day, they're kind of solving the same sort of foundational problem of taking something that's so complex that only 1 out of every 400 people can do, and putting it into a lot more hands, which will be transformative for the world, for economies, for like more businesses being created, more of these, more people having access to the creative power of the internet, not just the consumption side. And that will really unleash the internet's potential.
Yeah, I mean,
believe that.
There's so many new ideas out there that people want to get out,
or old ideas that just have been sitting kind of in the back of people's minds, and they just haven't had the right tools to or the access to the right people or whatever,
exactly, or the right funding to find a developer, and like so I was in that boat too.
Now they can become developers, visual developers.
All right, so thank you so much to Chris. Parker, is what is the most interesting Webflow use case you've seen?
That's a good question.
Yeah, that's a tough.
I've seen so many things. We've seen like IDOU build an entire kind of their design thinking course through Webflow. I think there's a company in the Webflow space called MemberStack. They sort of like add on user accounts into Webflow. That is their entire UI, sort of like all the front end engineering is done with Webflow for that product, which is incredible. It's like just shows the range of what Webflow can do. I mean, we've seen all sorts of things like kind of, what do you call them? Like, what are those things called? Infographics. But they're like all animated and tell a story. Some of those have been amazing. But I think the thing that's most powerful is actually, I keep telling this story, but New Story Charity, which is which started very early with Webflow, like they were able to create sort of like this Kickstarter like website that looked like a full-on application, and they were able to fund several families, which then encouraged them to like actually go full time, and now I think they've funded over 2,200 families and impacted over 10,000 lives, and like I keep being re-inspired by that story. It's sort of like reinforces the fact that designers and people who have a dream or just want to do something for the world or for society or solve a specific problem, by taking barriers away from them, you can just lead to foundational change. And now they're like 3D printing houses, and it's pretty nuts.
They have a huge like cement thing and makes a house within 24 hours. Nuts.
And I don't know what could have happened if that didn't get off the ground. So
changing so many lives beyond the website, and awesome. All right, from Micah, I've read about your passion about bringing UI tools to web development. Obviously, it seems evident the success of Webflow shows the need for more front-facing tools for experts and newcomers alike. Do you think we're just on the tip of the iceberg when it comes to web dev visual tools? What sectors of web do you hope Webflow can cater to in the future?
Yeah, I think I've said this before, where I think we're maybe at 5% of building what we want to build. Because yeah, like you think of this broader category of software, right? Like so many things fall into that. Like websites are kind of mini software. Then you have products like Airbnb and Twitter, etc. And then you have sort of behind the firewall or like internal company processes or apps or intranet stuff. We're barely scratching the surface on just like the website front. And over time, we'll extend that to become like richer and richer applications, with like multi-language and user systems and like the ability to declare logic visually and sort of do all that in one integrated place. We're just like, I think we haven't even seen the potential of what's already possible with Webflow. Kind of like seeing how people are stretching it to build entire applications augmented with some code. But once we have more of these sort of foundational horizontal layers that enable people to go much deeper, the sky's the limit. Like right now, software is so powerful. Like you've seen how much tech has transformed stuff over the last 20 years. Some of the most valuable companies right now are software companies like Amazon and Facebook and Twitter and whatever. And that all happened with only 0.25% of the world knowing how to build for that. So, when we actually open that up to a lot more people, who knows what's going to happen. So yeah, we're just the beginning. This is day one, honestly. I
never took that perspective. Like 0.25%, I've already built what you see on the web now.
Yeah, think of it like this. Rewind 400 centuries ago when the printing press was first invented. It was first available to just like people in power who essentially could afford the printing press, could afford had the economic and like military power to sort of distribute information without being punished, etc. And you really had only like central organizations disseminating information, only the information that they wanted people to have access to, etc. And now, like fast forward Renaissance, Industrial Revolution, and like the digital revolution, and now maybe we're at a point where if you have access to the internet, right, like your voice can be heard by the entire world all at once, which is not always a positive thing because like we need some checks and balances there, so people don't like yell fire in a crowded room or whatever, just to see what reaction they get. But it also speaks to the difference between like how many people have access to sort of like creating versus just consuming. And right now we're at the very, very early days of like creating for the internet beyond, like posting a tweet or like a YouTube comment or a YouTube video. Like we're really, the vast majority of humanity is not taking advantage of like the creative power of the internet yet.
Well, it's going to be amazing.
It's sort of like concentrated in these like tech companies, and therefore they're extracting most of the wealth and most of the value creation, etc.
Spread it around. All right. Thank you, Micah. Bradley's asking, what is the most challenging part of your position at Webflow?
That's a good question. Challenging part of my position at Webflow.
Answering this question.
Yeah. I don't know. It's all hard. I think hiring is pretty tough. But actually no, that's pretty enjoyable. I think the as an organization scales, there's you go from 20 people. I think you joined when we were like 20 people or so, or 25 or whatever. It's a lot easier to get everyone on the same page, rowing in the same direction. Whereas now we're at above 120, and it's a whole different dynamic. And at some point we're gonna go past the pretty soon, maybe past the time where I know everybody's name, right? And that's it's a much bigger challenge to kind of try to get everybody on the same page, sort of like thinking around the same priorities, and I think that's the biggest sort of like most intimidating part of, I guess, the journey in the next few months or years. I think it's pretty challenging.
It's a good problem to have, though.
Yeah.
That we're
also just like keeping myself from making fun of competitors online. It's always so tempting, but I'm just joking.
Okay. All right. This is not a question from Abdul saying, just want to say that you're amazing.
Ooh, you're awesome, Abdul.
All right.
Right back at you.
Chris, and a lot of questions were similar to this question. Chris and others were saying, asking, year 2030, or in 5 years, or in 10 years, what will Webflow and the industry look like?
Ooh. Well, if we're successful, if Webflow is successful, and we actually keep moving towards our vision of democratizing software creation, a lot of the limitations that you see today around like, oh, I can't make this product, or I need XYZ in order to, I need like this team or this amount of funding. I think the vast majority of those limitations are not going to exist. And that will come from, our product, the community, the general like no code movement that will remove more and more of these roadblocks. And by the way, no code doesn't mean there's like no code in the background. It just means that there are people who are like providing the abstraction of code above code doing the work behind the scenes. It's kind of like Amazon AWS. They sort of, it's not like there are no servers. They just have, they've now sort of abstracted away the problem of like buying your Dell machines and replacing your hard drives when they fail, and like hooking up power and making sure that it's, you're paying your power bill or whatever. They've sort of like taken this complexity of servers and doing all the IT management and hidden it behind an API. And I think the no code movement is doing that same thing for code, where we're saying you can take like really skilled engineers who can solve this problem once and make it available to a lot more people as sort of like this black box of functionality that you can like kind of configure how you want it to work. But at the end of the day, that abstraction is what like provides most of the power, and then you just sort of use it as building blocks. When I'm using Legos and I'm playing with my kids with Legos, I don't need to understand how that plastic is poured, how like different colors make their way into like infuse into the plastic, how like certain sizes are like their structural weight. Like there's probably really smart engineers at Lego that have done all those calculations, and they like provide these kits. But then once I get that power, I can sort of like be really creative and like take it to new heights and sort of like build on the kind of walk on the shoulders of giants. I don't know if that's the right impression. So I think in 2030, we will have, I hope, at least 10 times as many people participating in software creation, if not 100 times, which will be a fundamental shift in how many people are participating. Just because over the last 30 years, even though we're trying to teach people how to code and all this stuff, it's remained at the same level or a similar level as it was even in the .com sort of bubble. So we haven't made we haven't made that much progress, but I think this no code movement will open up the gates for a lot more people to participate.
Nice. All right. Mike is asking, any plans for asset management in the client editor? Our clients would love that. Also, will you guys be releasing a UI kit of Webflow platform for us, something like Adobe XD, Sketch, etc. And lastly, congrats on the Series A. Super excited for you guys.
Thanks. Any plans for asset management? We're doing a bunch of prioritization right now to figure out the improvements we're making for our asset manager in general, which will also extend to the editor.
Oh, nice.
Our goal over time is to make the editor more powerful and the designer more modular, and ideally like the two would almost like fuse at the end of the day, where you could sort of like unlock more and more power as you want more of it, right? Like, so you can do page management in the editor if you want to unlock that for a client, or you might want to do asset management, or you might want to enable clients to be able to use some of your like symbols or components. And by the way, symbols are about to get a lot more powerful. To unlock some of those like pre-built things that are in your style guide or in your component system or component library to your client, so that they can like add those to a blog post or something like that. So there's a lot more power coming to the client editor. Of course, like broken record here, but
Yeah.
I can't give timelines. But there is a lot more that we're working on there. UI kit, that's a good question. I'm not quite sure exactly what that means. I know we have a lot of like existing UI kits in the sort of community that people have opened up on our showcase page, and you can sort of open those up and like copy paste into your project.
Yeah.
Over time, we want to streamline that so that like more UI kits and components and things are available directly in Webflow, so you can sort of like access the marketplace inline. You don't have to like go Google around. We're not quite sure when that's going to happen or what the timeline is for that. So,
okay, all right. Going to Dan. Dan, thank you for your dedication to Webflow. It's an awesome product. I'd love to know what is the one killer feature that doesn't exist yet, but you would love to shop in Webflow.
Killer sharks.
Killer sharks with lasers
with
on
lasers,
their head.
Yeah. Literally a killer feature. I think it's the combination of user systems and visual logic that's really going to move Webflow into like that next phase of like closer to applications. Those two are kind of a killer feature for me. Plugins too are kind of like this foundational empowerment layer that helps improve all features or all parts of Webflow. So I'd probably say those three.
Okay, all right. Steve, as a front-end developer, I've seen the web industry in decline in the UK due to the massive number of industry agencies selling on WordPress templates, while as marking them up as a bespoke web project. Will Webflow be the final nail in the coffin for the industry? And if not, what steps will you take to support honest and experienced designers?
That's a great question. I think Webflow, so many Webflow projects I see are, they're not these kind of race to the bottom, sort of just because I'm using Webflow, I'm bidding less, etc. In fact, I've seen agencies bid way more because they're using Webflow, because they're able to provide like a truly custom solution for their clients, etc. So I think this will actually lead to the designers and like more design-driven agencies to have more power and more like they can demand more economic sort of wealth and return for the work they do, because it's value-based to the business. It's not just like a project-based, I'm gonna like take this design and convert it into a CMS or something like that. It's more around, it empowers designers to have a conversation with their clients, with like end businesses, to say like, hey, what will actually bring you a lot more customers? And that means you understand, you go into like these deeper engagements rather than just like, we're a website provider. And you can see that from folks like Ran Segal, who works like on a deep level with customers, and these are like 10, 20, 30, 40, $50,000 projects that if you know how to sell your services, you're no longer selling web development. You're actually selling a solution that empowers that marketing team or that product or that company or that enterprise to go much faster. Right? You're saying, like, don't look at the weeds of the problem of like, how exactly am I deploying something. You're actually saying, this is the value and the speed and the like the benefits I'm bringing to this business, how we can get you like more customers, the things that truly matter. So by putting designers in control, by putting more creative visual developers in, like giving them more power to do that, I think that opens up competition for one. So the monopoly on just like development is kind of unleashed to a lot more people, but it also means that designers are now in the driver's seat to pitch their true value and the value that they can bring to businesses by example, and it really means that sure, some of these kind of like clients might kind of look at Webflow's website and be like, it says you can build it yourself or whatever. I don't know if those are the best kind of clients, right? They're probably not they probably already don't value the work that agency is doing. But it's too soon to tell. We hope it's not a like this will actually elevate the power and value of design. Of course, we hope it removes some inefficiencies, right? Like a business shouldn't be paying $100,000 for a five-page like rebrand, and that happens all the time. Just because like you can sign a contract doesn't mean, and it takes 6 months or whatever. That's just honestly bad for everyone. Even though it might be good for like that one agency in the short term. So I don't know. I think this will find some equilibrium where like true value will find its like true worth with businesses, and people will be able to charge more and more because they're now not just delivering websites, they'll be delivering like entire like marketing workflows, and they're selling a new way of working and a new way of like delivering value, and we'll see where that takes us.
I feel like the value in the whole no code revolution is all about saving on time, not just for the designer or the developer, but also the client, and to make sure that new save time is now focused on the goals of the project, rather than just like how do we make this pretty or how do we maintain the site, all the stuff that most developers or designers are doing right now, which is the old way. But all right, thank you, Steve. Andreas, what's the biggest dream you have when it comes to web development? Do you visualize Webflow as part of that dream?
I think it's very similar to the previous question. So
okay,
I don't know, like I want to go to Mars, but that's not really web development.
All right, Webflow Mars headquarters, got it. All right, Chelsea, what opportunities do you offer for high school students to be involved, like internships, volunteering, etc.?
Currently, we don't have anything official. We do have an apprenticeship program that we're trying out for folks that are switching careers or just are leaving a boot camp or something like that. It's still very early. We haven't formalized it to a great degree. We've had 2 or 3 folks go through that recently. And we have discounts for students to use the product. We're thinking through. I mean, there's definitely the freemium plan, so you could use up to the limitations of that. But we don't have any internships or volunteering programs as of yet that are official. But that's a good thing to look into.
Okay, Duncan, I think you know this person. If any, what are the main reasons to learn how to code if a product like Webflow exists?
Oh, there are tons of reasons to learn how to code. It's sort of like, what's an analogy I could give? Code right now, you could do so much more with code. There are far fewer limitations for what you can accomplish with code rather than no-code tools. No-code tools are catching up, but I would say it's still in the pretty early stages, like I said, 5%, if that. So there are massive advantages to learning how to code, especially if you want to pursue kind of building your own like really technical product like Webflow. You wouldn't be able to build Webflow with Webflow today. Maybe that's something that we can make happen many years from now, but it's still like the proper way to do that. Like it's just not possible to do it with no-code tools today. So there are massive advantages. It's a very marketable skill. Even after no-code tools arrive on the scene, and they're doing that right now, that skill doesn't go away. So for example, when spreadsheets first came to be, like a lot of programmers were doing things that we consider today as like, you would do in a spreadsheet, like financial modeling, etc. All that stuff was happening via code. These were like the coding projects that developers did back then, where they would use like Fortran and COBOL and all these kind of old school languages to do like these business sort of like and financial modeling operations. And now, like we have over 1 billion people who use spreadsheets to solve like business problems that are essentially at the end of the day like getting a computer to do computing for you
Yeah.
that replaced programmers from the past.
Yeah.
But guess what? Those programmers and those like traditional developers have even more opportunities now because they're solving more and more complex problems that are better suited for code. And we have, I think it's projected that by 2020, next year, like we'll still have 1 million developer shortage. Like to work on like the hardest problems, you know, like AI and machine learning and et cetera. So coding is absolutely still a valid and growing skill. It's just it's so hard to do that we can't expect everybody in the world to, just like we can't expect everyone who needs a financial model and is currently using spreadsheets. Even though that used to be solved with code. We shouldn't be saying, oh, just because you can't solve it with code, that's the best way to do that. So that like the point of the no code movement is to take problems that can be solved via this higher order abstraction of visual development, and put that power into a lot more hands, and through that process, like allow a lot more people to participate. It's just like when YouTube came out and allowed you to upload a video and have an audience. It didn't remove the need for the movie industry. The movie industry is still like healthier than ever. They're still selling tickets. People are still going to the movies. But you know, millions, if not hundreds of millions, if not billions more people have a voice now and like a distribution platform to be able to like do the same kind of things that you know, like have the same kind of audience that movie studios have. Yeah,
that's true. All right. Going to let's see here. Okay, yeah. So Glenn, Vlad, what is the single most important thing a small web agency can do right now to help support the no code movement, apart from coming to the No Code Conference, which of course we're coming to?
Yes. Single most important thing a small agency can do right now. I mean, just talk about it. There's a show people by example what's possible. I think that leads to a lot of inspiration, because a lot of even without the future features that we're talking about for Webflow is already at a point where it's probably useful to millions more people than are using it right now, because they just don't know the power of it. You know, same thing could be said for you know, Coda or other no-code tools, right? Where people can fundamentally solve a problem faster and easier than sort of like a full code-based solution. So I think just showing people by example what's possible, creating YouTube videos, creating like sort of talking about what you've created with no code is a very powerful avenue to start sort of changing this mindset that the only like real type of development is like typing code in a text editor. And we fully believe that there's many different ways to develop software, visual like development being one of them.
And in the end, it's all about saving. Again, I keep going through this in my head, saving time, and saving time for your clients is such a big one.
It's not just saving time, because if you look at saving time, it's sort of like, let's say think about the movie industry, right? Like here's a movie studio that can now get like a new type of video camera that maybe doesn't require like color grading or whatever. That saves them time, but they still always had that power, right? Maybe it's a little cheaper for them, maybe they go faster, etc. So that's one aspect of it, like saving time. But the much bigger aspect is the fact that we're now creating, like allowing this creative power of creating internet connected software into a lot more hands. So it's not just making that one movie studio or like the current web agencies that already know how to code, have like developers on staff to like move faster. It means like tens if not hundreds of times as many people now have access to this industry and this creative power. And that's way more foundationally important than like existing people who are already doing this, who already have that like sort of power and privilege and like the ability to already participate in that industry, to move faster and be like more efficient and, you know, like take more of like have a healthier profit margin or whatever. That's great. But the fact that so many more people are entering the industry and have this access to create for the internet, that's way more, in my opinion, way more of kind of the meaning of the no code movement.
All right. Okay. Los Montoya. Hey, Los, if you're in here, hi.
What's up, Los?
Can you talk about what Webflow has planned in also getting app development to fall into the no code?
Yeah, so I just
Yeah.
mentioned this, like where we're looking at progressive web apps, and with our plugin API, hopefully getting closer to empowering the community to create a lot more of these like building blocks. You know, like on an iPhone app, you might have kind of like the bottom bar, the like sort of the iOS things that look
Yeah.
iOS-y.
Yeah.
So that'll be probably the first step of like stepping into application development, or mobile app development, or like iPad app development, etc., where we're still using the web platform, and then the jury's still out on how we're going to do that in a more native way. Time will tell.
Okay. All right. Cami, how does Webflow empower those who are less privileged but want to get into designing and building websites?
So this is a great question. I think no code in general has this democratizing effect in the sense that because you can do so much more with without the prerequisite of getting that computer science degree or getting that like boot camp certification. Just by going through the free Webflow University or from other sort of like no code training tools. We're able to bring that that barrier to entry to be so much lower, where you don't have to you have to fight with fewer sort of systemic issues or systemic problems that traditionally keep especially minoritized and underrepresented people out of tech, or out of the kind of broader web design industry, and kind of put that power into an individual's hands to be able to, like, in a self-directed way, learn the skills of software creation, kind of in a self-directed way. But there's that's just kind of a the easy answer, to be honest. There's a lot more we need to do to take a more active stance. So we're talking about something called Webflow for Good, which is creating a we don't have all the details on it yet, but creating an arm of our organization to make sure that we're actively helping people who have like systemically been kept out of the industry, and whether it's providing our tools at a heavily discounted rate, or creating programs to help people learn, to give them an avenue to enter the industry and to have develop like their own business or their own ability to provide other businesses with the kind of value that Webflow can bring. And I think that is just like bringing the power of like writing into a general population type of thing. Like, imagine the kind of power they gave people, right? Like, I can write you a letter versus like I have to have access to a printing press, and like I have to have had education to like learn how to write, etc. Once we make this a kind of like a generally accessible type of technology and skill, I think it'll just mean that the barrier that you have to cross in order to participate in the industry is much lower. So you don't have to have as many connections or be like have the right type of network or the right type of funding or the right type of kind of access. And there's a lot more we still need to do, because like Webflow still requires a pretty powerful laptop, for example, and that's a barrier to people accessing this kind of power. So again, there's a lot more we need to do to make that even better.
Okay. All right. Philip, why can't we get agency discount on hosting? I'm not saying that you are not providing value for the hosting fee, but on the other hand, I think it would be fair to get discount for bringing clients on the hosting. Most clients will come to me with questions, as I am a developer, so I think it's fair that I can make money on the hosting.
Great question.
Yeah.
I think we're working on a partner program that does exactly this.
Oh, then there you go.
So send an email to support@webflow.com and we'll connect you to that team that is researching sort of the details of that
partner program.
Yeah. So
cool.
Yeah, that's exactly down that alley, I think.
All right. Jordan, he's one of our Webflow ambassadors over in LA. He's asking, what got you started in the design world?
I'm wondering how honest to be about this. So I think I've told the story many times, but I came here. My family immigrated here from Russia.
Yeah.
We came here as refugees, and one of the first businesses my dad had was this like import-export businesses trying to get off the ground, and it was for pipes, like PVC pipes.
Okay.
You know, because like Russia didn't, or this is like post perestroika, which is like when the Soviet Union kind of collapsed and all these like oligarchs took over and the government sort of essentially collapsed, right? And like everything was turned over into private hands. But before in the Soviet Union, like you really like there was one kind of factory that produced cars, one factory that produced shoes, one factory that produced like coats. So everything was kind of the same, and that was the whole kind of the standardization of the USSR was one of its like strengths or whatever, because you really didn't have like they played it up as a strength because you know why would you need choice in like the different types of car if we the all-knowing state can come up with the best car. So anyway, like there was this opportunity to like take a lot more products from the Western world or from the US and kind of import them into Russia, because Russia didn't have like PVC pipes. They didn't have manufacturers that did like PVC pipes. They only had like copper or like old school iron or whatever. Okay. So my whole job was, and this was in Corel Draw, like my dad had me like pick up and learn this sort of, so I sort of learned the pen tool by myself. This is like pre-internet. This is like AOL maybe or CompuServe days, where there wasn't much content. It's sort of you had this book to kind of try to learn a graphic design tool. So my whole job was to take an English language catalog for where they were ordering these pipes and trace all the pipe diagrams. And they were like super complicated. You know, you have like a Y valve, and then it has you know the measurements or whatever. You have to convert everything from inches to like metric or whatever. So it was really tracing a lot of things, and I think I was 15 then. Okay. So that was my whole job, to take an entire catalog. It was like this thick, and scan a bunch of scan these pipes, and then retrace them, turn them into vectors, and then translate everything into Russian. And that led to me like the next summer working at the Russian Yellow Pages, which was you know making ads, calendars, you know like wedding invites, things like that. And for the entire summer, I worked there for 3 months. I got paid something like $250, and my dad kept it all. Because that's how the Russian immigrant community works. It's like, thanks, kid.
Oh wow!
But hey, you know, I learned how to work with clients. I learned how to get yelled at by clients. I learned how to use like vector tools and sort of push them to their limits. To this day, I still am not sure whether that was like a sanction type of thing, like whether we could use that company's catalog as inspiration or not, or if we like broke their copyright or something. I don't know. This is off the record, right?
Yeah, off the record. No one is here with us.
Okay.
Yeah, no one. All right. Rainmar, he's also one of our ambassadors from Sarasota. He's asking, during a recent Webflow versus WordPress debate, the panelists brought up the open source nature of WordPress and claimed it to be the true separation between platforms. He stated that it was the ultimate selling point for him and many others who truly believe in a free and open internet. How do you address concerns of people who fear censorship, deplatforming, or any other issue that might fluctuate on the whim of a corporate agenda? How do you overcome the concern that you'll never actually own the underlying framework of your website, so as long as you use Webflow, considering the CMS is completely proprietary?
Wow, that's a pretty broad question. I mean, I think of it as like pretty much any other company thinks of it, where there's a trade-off between convenience and like owning everything, right? Like you think of something like Shopify, right? That's a proprietary platform. It's very hard to move from Shopify to something else, but it provides so much value to the end business that it really doesn't matter at the end of the day. Like if you choose your platform correctly, then you get so much more value from that platform than you would get from sort of rolling your own thing. Similar to, you know, if you're using Photoshop or something like from Adobe, it's sure, you could say that it's now because it's, cloud-based or whatever, and you can get access cut off to it. Like a more pure approach is to use GIMP or something that's purely open source. But Photoshop provides so much more value. It's so much more maintained and has is pushing the envelope so much further that for the vast majority of people, that is not a concern, as long as you believe that the company can be held to task to do the right thing when it comes to not just willy-nilly throwing people off the platform, etc. I think there's something to be said around people who are worried about Webflow as a private company also has freedom of speech rights. So we, in our terms of service, we there list many things that we're not okay with people using Webflow for.
Yeah.
You can't go build a pornography site on Webflow because we have customer support personnel that have to maintain that and help people answer tickets, etc. We don't want Webflow to be used for hate speech and attack ads and things like that. Where that is always going to be at the discretion of our terms of service, and you just have to make that trade-off between using platforms like Shopify, like Webflow, even WordPress, right? You have to take WordPress. You had all these things like the Daily Stormer or whatever, these white supremacy sites. They were built on WordPress, and then they were kind of moving between provider to provider, and then they were kicked off from domain providers. And at the end of the day, when you're doing crappy hate speech like that, I hope that does become harder for people to just find any place, or they just expect every private company to just say, sure, use our voice, our platform, our tools to amplify your hate speech, etc. So I think there's a just like people have free speech rights with the government, so does a private company in determining how they want their platform and their tools to be used to not amplify certain in some cases evil things. Just we don't want to be the IBM during World War II, sort of just being totally agnostic and saying oh, whoever buys our software for whatever they use it with, whether it's used for kind of to perpetuate the Holocaust or to compute business whatever in North Carolina, a company that doesn't discern with those two extremes, it is a certain position that you can take of we'll take any sort of business, but I think for me that just doesn't feel like it's a fair trade-off for a company to have to support or give voice to something that hurts other people very actively.
All right.
But when it comes to sort of open source and not open source, sure, you can always, just when you're building, let's say you are using Google Spreadsheets, right? You can get more control if you run your own database that's free of charge or whatever, and you have if Google decides to sort of shut off your account, of course, it's going to be better if you run all that locally on a Linux workstation or whatever. But the convenience factor and the chances of that actually happening are the chances are so low, and the convenience factor is so high, and the value provided is so high that it just makes a lot of sense for people to make that determination, knowing that people platforms like Webflow aren't just going to willy-nilly kick people off just because they disagree with certain types of information that's presented. But there are extremes where we have to use our terms of service to kind of stop people from using our platform in ways that we don't want to amplify as a company.
Okay.
And I think that's true of any platform. You're seeing that on YouTube and even more kind of agnostic platforms like Cloudflare, etc. So that's I think that's a pretty fair trade-off when it comes to extreme hate speech and things like that.
Okay. All right. Kyle is asking, will there be more store integration in the future, kind of with, for example, Printful or Etsy?
Say that again.
Will there be more store integration, so e-commerce integration with like things like Printful or Etsy?
Yes, that's the whole point of our plugin ecosystem.
Oh yes.
In which we kind of want to go a little slower to go faster later. But I think that might actually come as a first class type of integration before the plugin system. We'll see. It's sort of everything is a kind of running prioritization as we see what's important for folks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, we see all these things that we want to do, but it's
Yeah.
tough to put like which one
Yeah.
goes first. Oh man. Alexander, what types of applications do you intend to help people build next, and why? I think.
Also, like that's the thing that we can't really imagine, right? Like people are gonna build all sorts of things when you give them that power. It's sort of like you go to our website showcase, the most popular sites or whatever. Almost none of them look the same, right? And that's just in the website space. So we're going to have such a wide array of applications created once we put more power in people's hands.
Yeah, and I feel like Webflow is like, I've said this to some of my friends too. It's like Webflow is that first iPhone that came out, and it looks all shiny and everything. But then it's like, okay, cool. What else can you do with it? And it's like there was no App Store at the time, but when the App Store came out, boom, people were doing stuff that like not even Apple knew that would happen.
It's actually like this is not, I wouldn't say it's a world-changing application or whatever, but my 10-year-old daughter created a site called Animal Facts.
Oh, okay.
Just for her friends, and her friends now bring her facts that she goes and enters into the CMS, and then it like reloads. So that is already like, you can think of it as like software building, right? You're now building a portal of like these weird animal facts that she's collected, first by herself. She kept in a notebook, then we made it digital. And now her friends know that this is like a place that they like go to check, hey, is there something new? Like, that's not a business per se, but that's already utilizing the power of the internet and software and like this new medium that, and it's like really well structured. She already learned like the concept of, collections and how like objects have properties, and an animal is like a thing that can have a name and a like a family and a genus and a species, and it can have like a one-to-many sort of a collection of facts. An effect can like, once you have a fact, it's like related to an animal. It's already thinking about these like more abstract like development concepts. It's really like building an application, like a really simple application with a database that sure you could argue is like a CMS or whatever, but like once we have backend logic, then she'll have a form that says, oh, when I submit this form, it goes directly into the CMS for approval, and then when she gets a text message and says yes, it's approved from one of her friends, like it gets listed as a, hey, this this fact was contributed by Maggie and it has like this many upvotes or whatever. Like,
oh my gosh.
Who knows where like that sort of power will take us. And that's just like a play toy type of thing, right? Like a personal expression type of application. So we'll see where like like more deep sort of like business applications take us.
Okay. Matt, Matt, one of our community mods. Will Webflow e-commerce ever allow for external marketplace of apps like Shopify? That extend Webflow e-commerce functionality?
Yes.
Ooh, we're doing that.
Yes.
Oh. Okay.
Next question.
All right.
I know the next question is when, but.
All right. Pernima is asking, what was it that you did on the 5th try at YC that got you in, and why?
So to clarify, I tried to start Webflow 4 times. On the 4th attempt, we applied to YC once and got rejected, and then the second time applied again and got in. So we only applied to YC twice. But on the second time, what we did was, so the first time it was the same product as Webflow is today. It was just like very early. It was just the idea, and it was like just some of the software. It was kind of working, and we had sort of like a demo video and all that. But what we didn't have was validation from users. The second time when we applied, we had posted on this website called Hacker News, where got a ton of upvotes, and a lot of people signed up for the beta. Like, let me know when it's available so I can actually use it.
Me too.
And Nelson being one of them. I remember seeing that spreadsheet. It was like we sort of had it like hooked up to Google Sheets, and it was just like new names coming in every 100 milliseconds or something like that.
Man.
It was like just
validation check.
Oh yeah, it was so encouraging to watch. So I think with that sort of proof point of like, hey, there's a lot of people that are resonating with this product. In the startup world, that's called traction. So with a lot more traction, we're able to apply, and that makes YC's job a lot easier of kind of saying, oh, there's something really here, because not only does it seem like a cool idea, which they've probably seen 1,000 different website builders in the past. But now like there's proof points from customers waiting to like pay and use the product. So.
All right. Lane is asking, will the 10,000 CMS item limit ever be lifted? Oh, that's a big site.
Yes. I just don't know exactly when. It's such a sort of small subset of I think we've had like a handful of people ever reach that limit, and of course we want to make that a higher limit in the future, especially as we move to applications over time. It's just not we don't know when we will have time to focus on kind of improving because as the number of items increases, a lot of factors increase. So it becomes more expensive to host that site. It becomes more expensive to like serve like every page on that site. It becomes more expensive to like kind of what's called bust to cache when you do publishing. So there's a lot of like technical factors that go into that. It's not just like an arbitrary thing where we're actually making sure that we don't break the vast majority of our sites that have much fewer CMS items and have like simpler kind of like CMS configurations. But ideally over time, that is something that's going to be lifted. It's probably going to be part of like a broader kind of more powerful plan, for agencies or for enterprises, for like larger companies, because by that time you're getting closer to like really, really rich sort of like content management workflows, etc. We have yet to see exactly how this is going to play out, but like in order to justify our investment into improving that entire sort of technical infrastructure for performance and for scalability, I think we'll have to kind of make that a more premium type of feature.
Okay. All right. Cool. All right. Derek is asking, are there any plans for the iPad Pro support through the new iPad OS web browser?
I've seen some experiments internally around it actually working, but I'd have to double check if that was sort of like a custom, like an engineer kind of playing around with making sure that it works. I don't know what the current limitations are, but
I think I saw a video on Twitter, like someone was using Webflow on a beta of the OS, and I think dragging wasn't working for some reason or something like that.
That's important.
Yeah.
For some drag and drop stuff, right?
Yeah, but maybe you can like tap on it, and then the element will
I think
go,
that's
but
we'll vote up on the wish list.
Yes.
If you want iPad support.
Wish
That'll
list,
help us prioritize it.
Wishlist.webflow.com. All right. Davidas is asking, hey Vlad, any updates on customer accounts yet? If no, when are you planning to implement this crucial feature?
No updates yet. It is still something that is a kind of roadmap priority for us. I don't know when we'll have more news on it. We're doing sort of like scoping and validation work on it now.
Okay. All right. And Bailey, will we ever see some sort of schedule publish functionality? The ability to schedule a publish date and time for an entire site would be so handy.
Yes. I just checked with our CMS team, and looks like they're already working on some of that stuff in the current sprint.
Ooh.
So it might be sooner than later, but we'll see. No promises yet.
You said the word soon.
Sooner than later.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. So hopefully soon. I know that's a big pain point for more advanced CMS use cases.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. So those were the actual like pre-stream submitted questions. I guess we'll take the next 10 minutes like lightning round going through the ones that have been sent in for the past hour.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure.
All right. Okay, here we go. Noah's asking when we'll get dynamic support for custom attribute field in the element settings.
Dynamic support. I'm not sure. I think there was a project already working on it. I'll double check. We need to. I think there's a wish list item that we can update once we have more details on that.
Okay. All right. Bassem is asking when will we be open to Middle East payment gateway for e-commerce? I live in Kuwait and using Webflow. Really want to use Webflow e-commerce in Kuwait, or any collaboration we'll do with one of the payment gateways in Kuwait, like Tap Company.
I don't know. I think that's something where we would like to see more demand or more data around like how useful it would be. Right now we're working on PayPal, which is a major kind of new gateway that opens client sites up to more than just accepting kind of credit card payments. But beyond that, we haven't done much like geographical prioritization to see what we're going to focus on next. But it's like this is a really tough prioritization exercise where we can't work on every country at once. It's just something that we have to like dip our toes in one by one, and unfortunately usually that starts with the most like heavily trafficked websites, which means typically means like larger population countries, which typically aligns with things that are already supported with like Stripe and PayPal, etc. So no promises on Kuwait yet.
Okay. John Higgins, there is some URL coercion with e-commerce. For instance, com/products and com/category that makes migrations difficult because of the admittedly minor page rank loss. Are there any plans for removing these coercions?
Good question. I'll bring this up with our e-commerce team. Like I can see maybe allowing like a different URL for that, like providing, prod or something like that, giving people the choice, but I'm not sure yet. I don't know what considerations went into doing those coercions. And I think that's mostly for existing sites, not new ones, because new ones already don't let you use that as as sort of a slug or a category.
Okay.
But I'll check with the team.
Okay. Leslie is asking, selling digital goods. When can we expect this to launch?
When is always a tough thing. It is something that will be possible. We just don't know when.
Yeah, there's a lot of when questions here. When are filters coming to CMS? Didn't we just add a new multi-reference? Or were you coming multi-reference filter?
Oh, where you can use a filter, two filters on the same collection field twice. I'm not sure. I'm not sure what this question means exactly. Keshav, you might want to clarify because there's already conditional visibility for CMS. You could filter results for a collection field. So I'm not quite sure what you mean by filters there. Maybe they mean on a site, like actually visible, sort of like segmented filters where you say only show me, etc., like more customer facing or user facing.
Yeah. Peter is asking, can you add 3D objects compatibility or 3JS easy import?
Probably not anytime soon. That's one of those things like 3JS and WebGL are so complex that it's probably going to be a while until we get into that sphere of things. I mean, you can do a lot with 3D already, but like faux 3D in interactions. But we probably have way bigger fish to fry before we get into 3D kind of capability.
Yeah, I mean,
for 3JS.
Now with Lottie and you can kind of do 3D based on a timeline scrub.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah. So, Vania is asking, any chance to have billing in other currency besides US dollars? The euro, maybe.
We are working on a billing rework project that gets us closer there.
Nice.
So charging in the actual currency without that translation. It's actually bad for us too because we have to sort of pay a kind of a fee to convert between currencies. So there's work being done in that area.
Okay. Des is saying, first of all, amazing platform. Thank you so much. Any idea on more breakpoints? Thank you.
Working on it.
Oh, we are?
Yeah, actively right now, finally.
Oh, whoa.
Yeah.
Okay.
No promises on details yet, but it is something that is, we know that, like the smaller container is an issue. There's a lot that we want to improve there.
Okay. Breakpoint for Apple Watch.
No comment.
All right.
Yeah.
Keshav, will the No Code Conf go live or video later? I'd really like to watch what went on. I'm guessing asking about live streaming for the conference?
I think we'll have the video after the fact, for sure. And we're trying to figure out the situation with live. That's a much harder thing to pull off. But definitely the video will be accessible to everyone later.
Nice. Okay. Let's see.
It still makes sense to come to the conference though. Like there's nothing that beats meeting people face to face.
Yes.
So.
Yes. Meet some of the team members. Some of the team members of Webflow and other speakers, and being at the workshops, and learning right there is very, very valuable. Jirka is asking, hi, what is the state of development of multi-language? Yes, this comes up a lot.
Yeah, I mentioned it last time. It's very tied in with our plugins work, which is complex to say the least. So unfortunately, it's hard to summarize the state of development in that sphere. Like we have a lot of kind of how we imagine the feature to work end to end, or the capability to work end to end, but so much is reliant on our architecture that just needs some time to figure out.
Okay. Merrick, have you ever thought about a Webflow fund for funding great businesses that grow also thanks to Webflow?
Yes, we have, and that might be coming.
Oh, nice.
But that's something that a lot of companies have utilized, especially after they have a marketplace like Slack, etc., where you provide a way for people to build on top of the platform and remove some of the barriers to get started. So it's certainly something we're considering.
Okay. Jason Green, update on nested lists.
I'd have to double check. I'm not exactly sure what's happening on that front.
Okay. Okay, we've already asked that. I want to ask, Danny is asking, let's say if a company like Adobe were to purchase Webflow, how would you handle the team?
How would you handle the team? I don't think the team would even find out about that, because we would say no before, the first conversation. Yeah, I mean, in the first conversation. So it's like a non-issue.
Okay.
Yeah.
Let's see here.
And that's not because I love Adobe. Adobe is a great company. Like we use Adobe all the time. But the vision that we have for no code and software creation and visual development, I think is so much grander than what would sort of be a standalone kind of like web design tool as part of the Creative Suite or whatever. I think that would just be a fundamentally less impactful mission than the one that we're currently working on.
Okay. All right. Evelina is asking, do you plan to create a more friendly way to embed code? Friendly.
Yeah, it's a good. I think there's a bunch of limitations now around like code size, and it doesn't actually show the custom code after you embed it, even if it has as long as it has a script, it doesn't show it because of security considerations. TBD on this one. So.
All right. For freelancers on a budget, this is from Joe. For freelancers on a budget, would it be possible to volunteer at No Code so we can contribute? I think that's a.
I think we already have everything figured out for
Yeah.
No Code Conf. So we have all the staff and volunteers we need, but like appreciate the thought.
Yeah. Well, this isn't going to be the last,
Right.
first and last No Code Conf.
Right.
There's in the coming years. Yes. So I think we've answered this before. We'll go to Lauren's one right here. Why did they take Webflow as company name?
Because trying to think of a joke here. Okay, I kid you not. We were about to be called Marked Up.
Yes, heard.
MARKDUP without the E, because it's like Web 2.0.
That's so cool.
So because markedup.com was taken, we decided to go with Webflow. Just kidding. Yeah, it was something that actually, it was already a company that existed in 1999.
Yeah.
And I remember seeing some project or some mention of Webflow. I'm like, whew, that makes complete sense. Because I already had the idea for kind of visual software creation back in 2002.
Yeah.
And when I saw that like name, it just made perfect sense.
Something just lit up in your brain. You're like, this is it.
Exactly.
Huh.
Yeah. And I took out like my entire credit card limit went into buying that domain name. My dad thought it was like the dumbest thing. Yeah. So, but I did like 3 extra web design projects to try to pay that off. It took a few years, but
oh, you really
totally worth it. Yeah.
Yeah. In hindsight, yeah.
Yeah.
Man, okay. Let's get 2 more questions.
Oh, somebody said the PVC pipes might have to do something with the name. Because of flow. Love it. Good one, Javi.
That one was good. All right. Let's see here. Let's go to we'll go 2 more. Darren is asking, just curious, is there a demand for mobile editing view for Webflow?
Hasn't been that much, honestly. But it is something that that I see becoming more and more of a priority, especially as you do like simpler things, like update a blog post or something like that.
Yeah. I've actually done my own Zapier thing where if I want to post like a quick thought onto my website, I would submit through a password protected page on a form, goes to Zapier, then goes live on my site.
It's actually pronounced Zapier.
It's like Target.
Yeah, I'm just joking.
I'm gonna call it that from now on, Zapier. All right, last one. Who gets the last one?
Hold on, let me pick one.
So many.
Oh wow.
146 questions.
Sorry to everyone if we don't cover your question. There's so many great ones in here. Webflow is amazing in that it has so many practical use cases. Great. I agree with you. I think I mentioned kind of how we're expanding to more types of. Are there any local Webflow meetups for meetup.com? Nelson can answer that question. There's plenty.
Webflow.com/events. Meetup.com/pro/Webflow. Yeah.
There's also some. Are there any Webflow bootcamps online or in class being offered in the future? There's some third-party things. Like I just heard from Ransigal, there's like a Flux Academy on how to sort of become a Webflow freelancer. We also just released a huge course on
freelancer journey.
The freelancer journey on how to become a web design freelancer, and sort of takes you through start to finish, how to get clients, how to pitch to them, etc. So there's more and more of this stuff coming. Let's see how to pick the last questions. It's so hard.
I know. And some of it we've already answered, so don't feel too bad about that.
Okay, I think this one's good. From Jin, because it's something that I'm thinking about. How would you maintain Webflow's great product vision and people culture in the future as the company grows rapidly? So this is great because a company can there's this expression that culture eats strategy for lunch.
Okay.
So if you ruin your culture, like no matter what strategy you have,
Yeah.
you're kind of toast because you've kind of burned your team, etc. So we fundamentally believe that the two go hand in hand, like our product vision. And that's our first mission. Our first mission is to empower people that want to create software by themselves without needing to like learn this huge technical kind of like burden, sometimes I call it, or this huge kind of skill to learn how to code. That's the vision of our product. How do we get more people creating software? How do we multiply the potential of the internet by allowing more people to have access to that power and create the types of tools to give them that kind of access? And honestly, I'm not the best person to even though Sergi Bryant and I invented the first version of the product, we're not even the best people to make all those calls of like this product makes sense or this doesn't make sense. All we have is that vision that we want to like really set forth, and we hire like really amazing people who can take that vision and bring it into reality. And we have you should meet some of the team members on this team. It's like it's just inspiring, like hearing them talk about all of their ideas, and more importantly seeing them bring those ideas into market and to, like actually bring value to our customers and our community and the industry, etc. And our second mission, equally important, it's not like secondary, it's like they live side by side, is to create the kind of company where each individual team member can live an impactful and fulfilling life. And that's a tall order, because it means that you really have to strive to understand every person's motivations and how they want to grow in their career and what they want to accomplish in their life, which sometimes might mean that they want to start a startup of their own, and that's the kind of impact that they want, and you have to like support them through that journey. And for us, we really have to think about those two as our guiding principles, our North Stars. And as long as we see those as the main reason why we're doing what we're doing, not because at like higher than that is something else, like, oh, we want to make X in revenue or whatever. That shouldn't be like, we don't believe in just kind of like this North Star of like solving for shareholder value or whatever. Like, sure, that could be an outcome of like, we build shareholder value and like our team is better off for it, and like the way that we support our team members and being able to support their families, etc. But those two things are the most important thing. Everything else sort of falls out from that, right? If you give people like those two charters, like give them the support of like treating people like people, not as like resources just to like do the business's bidding or whatever. And then give this broad vision, and you have to like work one level closer to that of like setting themes and like yearly goals and get people to agree to like shorter term steps towards that broader vision, because when you have a vision that large, like people can go into many different directions. So that's most important. And then we have these things called core behaviors, which is kind of like how we behave as a company in order to reach our missions, right? So there are things like practice extraordinary kindness, and be radically candid, and lead by serving others, and just fix it. Like the way that we behave around each other, if it's not kind, and if it's not candid around our own intentions, and like even things like commitments around like what we're going to deliver or ship, etc., or how we prefer to work, and what our goals are. That sort of provides this foundation for long-term success as a company, because we're like focusing on the things that matter versus like, this is the feature that we're going to build, and this is the feature that we're going to build next, and sort of like dictating that from like on top, and thinking that we have, like, as a leadership team, all the best ideas. So I think what's most important, like my job, is to keep motivating the team to like see the need for that high level vision, or those in both of our missions, more so than like do what I said.
Yeah.
Or here's exactly how we operate. And, you know, constantly the team comes to me like, hey, this isn't working. Or like your idea for X isn't working out. Or you weren't clear with your expectations for XYZ. And you see like a lot of sort of self-correction and like learning as an organization happening from that. So I think at the end of the day, it just comes down to just like seeing those missions as the global, what I call the global maxima, not like solving for short-term stuff, but really thinking around like what is going to keep this team together and like really motivated, really focused, and really feel like they have a lot of autonomy and ownership, and a sense of purpose of like why the work that we're doing is like super important. Because it gives so much, like not just creative power. Honestly, creative power is great. You know, the fact that I can like make a logo is awesome because I can practice that. But the economic power of having these tools at your fingertips is so much more massive, right? Because it means that you can make a living for your family. You can like empower a business to like reach the next stage of growth. You can like bring up a product or service that didn't exist before that can have like massive social impact. And it could be stupid stuff like icanhascheeseburger.com, right? That's like a web app that's just mostly just content. And yet it has had like you know, has made a lot of people laugh and a lot of like corporate slide decks a lot more fun. But then you also have things like New Story Charity and other products and services that can like fundamentally change the world. And being sort of at the center of that, creating technology that can empower people to create technology is, I don't know, like as long as we keep focusing on that, I think that will maintain Webflow's like vision as a product, not just from me, but like from all the people at the company to see like the bigger picture rather than what is the feature that we're building right now, or kind of being in the weeds of you know, like running a company. So as long as we keep that as a goal, I think we'll be fine. Of course, there are going to be challenges as we get bigger, but
it comes with it.
Yeah,
you know?
it comes with the territory.
Yeah. Oh, great question, Jin. And that's all the time we have for questions. Again, if we didn't get to your question, it's maybe because it was similar to others, or we just don't have enough time for it. There's a lot, 149 questions. Whew. But yeah, before we go, how excited are you? Excited or nervous or both about your first opening keynote, your first keynote for the No Code Conference happening in November?
I have to do that?
Yeah, you're on the schedule. You're first up.
What? No, I'm super excited about that. It's going to take a lot of prep, but I think it's going to be a great opportunity to paint a story of how this new industry can really transform a lot of lives and empower a lot of people to take advantage of the wealth creation that the internet can bring. And I think, you know, obviously want to make it, you know, inspiring and funny and informative and all that, but definitely already nervous about it. So we'll see. How
many not dad jokes, but how many Vlad jokes have you added or had to remove from your first draft?
Oh, it's 100% dad jokes. Like that's my communication style.
Okay.
To pull in Lottie, there's a Lottie of them.
Lottie is a great feature.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you so much for spending your time every quarter with the community. And yeah, if this is your first time being here live, thank you so much. We do these streams with Vlad every end of the quarter. So again, if your question wasn't answered, bring them next quarter, and yeah, we'll get to them. Let's go ahead and close it off. So if you need any billing, account, or technical help, please go to university.webflow.com/contact, and the customer support team will help you out as fast as they can. If you have a design or custom code question, please go and join the global community over at forum.webflow.com. And do me a favor, if your question gets answered there, pass that favor forward and answer someone else's question so we can all grow together. You can find us on the social medias. It's twitter.com/webflow, instagram.com/webflow, youtube.com/webflow. If you're already here, go ahead and subscribe. Click the subscribe button and the notification bell so you can see whenever.
Where should I point to?
I don't know how they do.
Yeah.
That way. Yeah, right here. Okay. And click on the bell too, so you'll know whenever we go live or when we come out with a new university video. Parker's saying be sure you're animated when you're telling your jokes on stage, so don't forget about that. And again,
Noted.
NoCodeConf.com. Get your tickets now. Sign up for either the workshops or the conference and join some of the great minds for this new no-code revolution. Yeah, that's about it. Thank you, everyone, so much for being here. And as always, make the web beautiful together. See ya.
Bye.